Hi, I'm here in my office. I just got done visiting with a client doing a treatment. Um, it was really interesting. After nearly every treatment I do, I get so much information from the body, and I feel like writing a whole article about it. So it's a little overwhelming. And it's funny, I once listened to a psychologist talk about how when you have a big to-do list, you get tired because physiologically it's like having a mountain to climb, and our bodies respond with a kind of a suppression to that by making us tired, because the expenditure to climb a mountain would not be worth it in like prehistoric times. So that is always really interesting for me, because when I do gather in a lot of information, I get sleepy afterwards. But this treatment was really interesting. In particular, I've been treating a person with knee pain for type popliteus for this was the 5th treatment, and we have gotten to probably like 80-90% better, which is kind of my tagline. About 90% of my clients get 80 to 100% better in 1 to 5 treatments. So success with that, but we're going to need a couple more treatments, I think, with him to get him 100% better. And I identified that last session. I said, I think we're going to need at least 6 or 7. So we'll see how that goes. There's also emotional components we're working with, so that always adds an extra layer. And there was a little bit of a pause between one of the treatments as well. So we had a little bit of like extra time that usually I like people to come in once a week when I'm working with them on a specific issue. But for this one with the popliteus pain, at knee pain, so it's back of the knee is popliteus, but you can also get like a popping and clicking in your knee when you move it when the popliteus is tight. They started having this lateral knee pain and back of the knee pain after biking a strenuous bike ride with clip pedals. So I see that a lot, because how you have to clip your feet in, you're moving your tibia and your lower leg a certain way, and that actually activates the popliteus, and especially in a longer strenuous ride, if you're not up to that fitness-wise, it can strain that area for you. So I get a lot of people coming in that have seen physical therapists or chiropractors for this issue, and it's not really been assessed and identified correctly a lot of the times, because the popliteus isn't often worked manually by people. I don't know why. You have to be careful when you work the back of the knee, because there's a lot of vasculature and bursa and nerves, but you can work the back of the knee, and point-specific areas are very important to work on the meridian lines. So the bladder meridian that runs right behind the knee, and then the gallbladder meridian that runs along the lateral meniscus, also the spleen meridian that runs along the medial side of the knee. But today, so we've been working with all those meridian channels and organs for 5 sessions, but today we identified an extra meridian that fell into the mix. So we were also working a little bit with the liver divergent channel and some pelvic release, as far as working in the bladder meridian as well. So the liver divergent channel tells me that there's an emotional component that was relative there. We got some good pelvic releases, all external work, really impressive. But today we had stomach meridian come into play. So that meridian energy line of flow runs along basically like the lateral tibia under your knee. And lo and behold, they had some issues with work, and basically how they feel about themselves and their purpose, which is an ego generating thing, in relation to how they're experiencing it reflected from the external world around them. So that can certainly be your peer group, your friends, your family, and your work. So the work stirred up the ego in this way, and the bladder channel that's been stagnant has been stagnant because of a cognitive need for control, which is creating a reduction in flow of energy and emotion that bladder and the water element, bladder meridian and the water element governs. And there's also been a little bit of ancillary emotions of grief involved that we've explored with large intestine channel and mobilization of the mesenteric root of the sigmoid colon, or not sigmoid colon, of the descending colon and the rectum, so the mesenteric root that's associated with that part of the large intestine, and releasing that to release some of the neural plexuses that were getting tense and compressed in the pelvic bowl. Large intestine is associated with a need for control, but more of an emotional need for control. So the bladder channel is more of the cognitive need for control, that frontal lobe that the bladder meridian starts here in the inside of the eyebrows, goes up over the frontal lobe. So we've been working with that, and then the stomach meridian showed up today. So did some stomach visceral mobilization. Also brought into the mix the fire element as well, with some small intestine mobilization that was done after the triple warmer mobilization of the greater omentum. And to preface all of that, I worked acupressure points on the triple warmer at the back of the shoulder area near the spine, and the small intestine meridian points up at the top of the shoulder. So lots of information, a very big, good, comprehensive treatment. I followed it up with some basic lower leg mobilization and some active stretching of the popliteus with some rotation of the tibia and the flexion of the knee joint, extension and flexion of the knee joint. And so bringing a little bit more of that traditional orthopedic into the end of the treatment there. And it finished up really well. So this is our 5th treatment. I think after this, he's probably going to be 80 to 90% better. He's been making great strides. So yeah, I'd like to see this person though for another 1 or 2 sessions, just to get them in a really good space emotionally with some of the other stuff that's been going on, because we had the conversation today of what came first, chicken or the egg. Did you have this emotional predisposition that caused a stress injury in your leg when you were biking, whereas somebody that didn't have that emotional predisposition maybe wouldn't have been injured in that instance? Or did the stress injury in your leg cause an emotional predisposition to internally experience the stress that you have going on in your life in this certain way? So that's the beauty of this work and what is so interesting to me. And I just feel so honored to give a story to what the body is experiencing. And as I talk through with clients, they just feel like it hits, like it resonates with them, right? And they feel seen, they feel heard. And that in and of itself is such a healing vibration. Their mind can make the cognitive connections with what it's experiencing emotionally that it can't vocalize, really. They can make the cognitive connections with the physical injury, and then like miraculous things happen. Like your brain just decides to relax the muscles that have been pinching that nerve and that aggravating that joint, Stuff like this can happen. So that's why this work is so beautiful, and I love it. I love these experiences, and I love working with clients in this way, very detailed. And I do write about it as well. You can check out my articles I've written for Acupuncture Today. I have kind of a regular column right now with them. I've written maybe 4 or 5 2-part articles, so there's quite a lot of content. You can Google Minding the Gap, or search, since Google has the monopoly now. Let's just say search, try to break it down. Minding the Gap, Acupuncture Today, and you'll find my column. It's called Minding the Gap. And if you go to my columnist page, it'll have links to all the articles that I've written. And most recently was published a article on working with addiction and codependency, and how that can physically manifest in your body. It's really fascinating. And then I have another article coming out next week. I think it's next week. It's either next week or in September. Be on the lookout for it. And that is a treatment of an acute pancreatitis. So treatment of an acute pancreatitis with these techniques, which was a really rare, special thing to be able to experience with a client. So I feel very privileged to have had that experience, and I wrote about it, so you guys can learn about it too. Thanks. There'll be more of these posts, and just keep checking up with my website, elementaladvancedmt.com. You can also get some courses and my book at elementaladvanced.com. And you can buy that through the elementaladvanced.com website, or the store on the elementaladvancedmt.com website. So they're two websites that link back and forth to each other. So check it out. Thanks for your time, and I'll talk to you soon.